When you start to look at the 2025 season and specifically the 2025 schedule, you read those 12 games on the list and you start to look around and say, hey, feel pretty darn good about a return trip to the college football playoff, whether that's as back-to-back Big Ten champions or as an at-large. I think this schedule is very manageable. This schedule is very favorable. Hey, a lot of schedules are going to be manageable. A lot of schedules are going to be favorable when you have the talent year after year that the Oregon Ducks have as well. But there are some obstacles on this schedule. I've got my 5 toughest games for the Oregon Ducks in order. And let's start with the toughest obstacle and challenge out there. And it is the first one chronologically. September 27th, when the Oregon Ducks travel across the country to Happy Valley, Beaver Stadium, to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. I think that this game is all about experience versus maybe inexperience. Like, Penn State coming back is going to be one of the most experienced teams in college football. Drew Aller is going to be back at quarterback. They've got Singleton and Allen, those 2 great running backs that are going to be back to die. Dennis Sutton, a defensive end that's going to be back. Like, there's a lot returning. Now, there's some parts of this team that aren't returning, but there's big parts of this Nittany Lion group that are running it back one more year to try to make a run, take it one step further from where they bowed out last year, that being, of course, the semifinals as well. So where is Oregon going to be, I think, early in the season? I think they got to use those first 4 games on this schedule to really get ready for this challenge that is Penn State. Remember last year, it was kind of setting up something very similarly. As, hey, you had like the Michigan States and the UCLAs of the world on the schedule before Ohio State. You wanted to really get into gear. You really wanted to be playing your best when the Buckeyes came into Autzen Stadium, and we know how that one ended up as well. Now, this time, it's one last game, and you got to go on the road to one of the most hostile environments in the Big Ten Conference. Okay? Year number 1, I thought, was a pretty good introduction for Oregon in terms of road environments in the Big Ten. This, like Michigan and Wisconsin, those are good road environments, but Penn State takes it up a level. And I think considering the young pieces that are going to be existing. Now, I will say this. A third of the season is already going to be gone at this point in time. So I think your hope is that really you feel a lot more solidified in some groups, but I think there might be some position groups out there where there still might be a little bit of shifting. There still might be figuring out exactly what is the right combination within a certain position group. I think Penn State feels very solidified. Dante Moore going into his first Big Ten road environment. That's going to be a big, I think, like measuring stick to see exactly where Oregon is at that point in the season, playing against a high-quality team like the Penn State Nittany Lions. Let's move on to my number 2 toughest game, and it is going into one of the most underrated road environments, not only in the Big Ten, but in all of college football. Kinnick Stadium. Now, I'm going to put on maybe my Big Ten Ted hat for a minute here. Kinnick Stadium can be an absolute death trap. Kinnick Stadium, over the years, has been a place where Big Ten teams have gone to die. Not saying that's going to be Oregon. I think Oregon is a much more talented team than the Iowa Hawkeyes. But Iowa's got this, whether it's the combination of Kinnick Stadium with the combination of how Kirk Ferentz, Tim Lester, Phil Parker, this coaching staff, and this team really plays the game of football. Because you can easily get caught up in Iowa trying to bait you in to play that special teams type of game, to play that defensive type of game where maybe if it's 4th and 3 and Iowa has the ball at the Oregon 43, they punt the football, and now Oregon has to multiple times go like 90 plus yards down the field against a good Iowa defense. And the crowd at Kinnick Stadium, they are right on top of you. This one's going to be in early November. Midwest weather, usually pretty good at that point in time, but who knows? It can be pretty unpredictable, certainly here in the Midwest as well. And then, I know some people out there might laugh about Iowa's offense based on what we heard the last couple of years, but This is an offense that is progressively getting better. Last year they had a 1,500-yard rusher in Caleb Johnson, but this is the best that they've been at the quarterback position probably in like 5 to 6 years, since like 2019 when they had a Nate Stanley who was nearly a 3,000-yard passer. Mark Gronowski transferring in from South Dakota State, I think is pretty good. Like, when I look at this game, of course the Ducks are supremely talented to what the Iowa Hawkeyes are, but I gotta feel this could be maybe like the Wisconsin-ish game last season where maybe Oregon struggles to get going a little bit, struggles to get explosive early on, and the special teams and the defense really works for Iowa, and maybe Oregon escapes with like a 20-16 victory over the Hawkeyes. Got a long way to go between now and then, but that's kind of the vibe that it's kind of giving off. For my number 3 toughest game, I've got a home game on October 11th against the Indiana Hoosiers. I think the very interesting thing about both of these teams are going to be coming off of a bye week. But for Oregon, where are the Ducks going to be in that game coming off of Penn State? Really, are they going to be coming off of a loss? And maybe they'll be reeling. They got to refocus with that bye week, right? I think that's really good to be able to have that before returning home against the Indiana Hoosiers. Or are they going to be coming off of a big win? They kind of got a week to kind of sit there and think about it. And then you got a pretty good Indiana team coming into Autzen Stadium, certainly, as well. Now, let's, with the bye week conversation. Indiana last year. Indiana last year had a bye week prior to a pretty big game against Nebraska. And they proceeded them to take them to the woodshed and whip them up. 56 points. This offensive coaching staff with Kurt Cignetti and Mike Shanahan they are very good game planners, and they execute their offense very, very well. When I look at this Indiana team, now there might be a lot of people that say, hey, look at all of the people that left, but you have Fernando Mendoza that's coming in as the quarterback of that team. Passed for over 3,000 yards at Cal. I think when you combine him with the top 2 receivers from last year at Indiana coming back, Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper, I think that this passing offense is going to be really good. They brought in some really good transfers as well. They improved their offensive line with Pat Coogan. They returned back a lot of their offensive line certainly as well. I think this offense is going to be clicking once again. Defense, they bring back some good players on all levels of their defense as well. Now, I think that this is going to be a very interesting measuring stick as well for the secondary. We know that's the group, the line change of the Oregon Ducks, 5 guys out and 5 guys in. This is really going to be the first big passing attack. Penn State, I think, is going to be more of a test in terms of the front 7 and how they're going to hold up against that great run game. But Indiana's a team that they are going to pitch it around the yard. They are going to test you and how far that you can stretch your secondary and how far they can stretch the field by trying to create some explosive and big plays. So I think we're going to really find out a lot of where the defensive backs certainly are at this point in the season as well. Now, we're going to go to 2 West Coast opponents for my 2 final toughest games, the rivalry game. Toughest game number 4, I have that being the Washington Huskies right now. Look, I know Oregon is a much better team than Washington right now, especially at the line of scrimmage. Multiple levels better than the Huskies at the line of scrimmage right now. And I still think that is going to be the case in 2025, just like it was in 2024. But going up to Seattle is no easy task. We all know what happened in 2023. In 2021, Oregon won by 10. In 2019, they won by 4. And with 2017, long time ago, separated from the Dan Lanning era, we all know that. That was a 35-point loss. I mean, there could be some big-time late-season stakes on the line. I think Washington will have maybe 4 or 5 losses at this time. Will it be similar to maybe where Ohio State was last season when they played Michigan? A little bit different because Ohio State played at home. This one's going to be played on the road, certainly as well. So Washington might have absolutely nothing to lose at this point in time. So one thing we know about Dan Lanning, though, he is ultra focused from week to week, and he beats the teams that he should beat. Like, there's really no a team that's much lesser than the Oregon Ducks that comes up and really surprises them. That really hasn't happened in the Dan Lanning era. When he's lost to ranked good football teams. So, yeah, I don't think they're certainly going to lose, but I think there maybe could be a little bit of a tough challenge going on the road, certainly late in the season, to the Washington Huskies. The last game that I want to talk about, I think this game would be a little bit higher on my list if it was at like a different time in the year and if it were away from Autzen Stadium. But I've got this game against the USC Trojans. I think over time, this is really going to develop into the West Coast premier rivalry, considering how these teams are recruiting and the great talent that they're certainly bringing in. I think USC is going to take steps up in the coming years. But as of right now, I think USC is at a certain level, and I think Oregon is at a certain level. And that's why maybe this game isn't a little bit higher in terms of a tougher game on this list. This is going to be the final home game of the year. And I talked to Travis Rook-Lee about this from Ducks Rising, and he said the game that he's certainly looking forward to is most at Autzen Stadium is this game. I think this is the game where everybody is going to be juiced up. This is going to be, I think, the best Autzen Stadium crowd of the 2025 season. I think another reason why maybe this isn't higher on the list, like USC has not finished well the last two seasons. You look at 2023, they started out 6-0, they finished 1-5. Last year, they started out 3-1 and finished 4-5. USC has to play at Illinois, at Notre Dame, Michigan, maybe 50-50 games at Nebraska versus Iowa as well. So they could maybe have 4 or more losses at this point in time. And if you look at the Trojans, little bit of a question at quarterback with Jaden Mayava. I think he's a little bit, he's peaks and valleys. Right. I think he's had points where he can certainly push the ball down the field, but he's had points where he has trouble reading a defense and all that. And then you look at the offensive line. Like, they lose 3 guys, one of them coming over here to Oregon. They lose 3 guys on that offensive line, and they've replaced them with, I don't think they've replaced them with better players. So this USC offensive line certainly wasn't great last year. It led to Miller Moss and that resulting in what happened there, him kind of getting hit a lot, seeing ghosts, and Mayava eventually coming in to lead this team. Like, I think the defense is going to be better. I think the receivers are good, but I think there's a lot in this game with the home crowd. Autzen going to be super hyped up in this game, and the advantages I think that the Ducks have, I think they're going to be ultra focused late in the season to get a W, and that's why I have this as my number 5 game. I still think that this could be a pretty competitive football game late in the season as well. If everything comes together for USC, maybe they could be a little bit of a surprise team, and this could be possibly a ranked matchup as well. So to recap my toughest games, number 1, going to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. Number 2, November 8th, going to that death trap in the Big Ten that has been Kinnick Stadium. Number 3, October 11th, that home game against Indiana. That's going to be a good offense secondary. Where will they be halfway through the season? My number 4 game, November 29th, that rivalry game at Washington. And number 5 game, November 22nd versus USC.